Welcome back. This is TV 47 Prime. Thank you so much for joining us. The National Treasury has expanded its domestic borrowing target by 52.29%, which is equivalent to 570 billion Kenya shillings. Meanwhile, Treasury CS JOHN MBADI has raised concerns over rising global tensions in the Middle East, even as he maintained that Kenya's economy remains stable and on track despite external risks affecting many countries. My colleague Fred Indimuli had a sit-down with the Cabinet Secretary on these and more, and here is that conversation. But from me, I just want to wish you a good night. My name is Wakio Mzenge.
Yes, indeed. My name is Fred Indimuli, and today our guest is Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury and Economic Planning, the Honorable JOHN MBADI. He's a certified public accountant of over 28 years of experience in finance, leadership and public service. He has also served in the National Assembly's different capacities, including minority leader and as chair of the ODM party. Asante sana Waziri for having us in your office today.
Thank you. I wish you didn't forget to mention that I served in Budget and Appropriations Committee
as
for
a chair
15
of that
years,
yes.
And as Public Accounts Committee and to the chair, yes. And I was also Assistant Minister, by the way, in the office of the Prime Minister.
And now you're CS.
Yes.
Asante sana for that, Waziri. Now, let's start off with the 19 months that you've been in this position since August 2024. And most notably is at least 2-3 instances where we've had your boss, President William Ruto, pay very glowing praise about the work you do, your leadership, and your acumen on matters economy. But away from that, with regards to you, in your own perspective, what has been the highlight of your 19 months in office?
So first of all, Fred, let me say I'm humbled by the sentiments and comments that have come and remarks that have come from my boss, the head of state. But I must also admit that my success or performance or work here has also been supported greatly by the same office, His Excellency the President and the government as a whole, because this is a holistic, is a whole government approach. And I will tell you that none other than the head of state has steered and helped us in terms of deliveries. So much as he has been making very positive remarks about me, I must also say that he has supported this office a lot and the ministry. And it's not an individual's effort, it's actually the effort collectively of those who work at the National Treasury. But having said that, I just want to go back to your question to address what have been some of the highlights. It is important that when we debate state of the economy, that most of the times we tend to politicize the debate around state of economy. But if we depoliticize it and just come with facts and figures and the reality, then we would understand what progress we have made and some of the achievements that have been realized. You need to go back to where we've come from. And that going back should even be beyond my tenure. To the period when this administration came into office. Fred, I will tell you that this administration came into office when even debt repayment was a question. No other institution other than IMF had categorized Kenya as one of the 6 countries in Africa which were likely to default on their debt obligations. And 5 of those countries, name them, Ethiopia, Ghana, Chad, Mozambique, they all defaulted. It's only Kenya which has survived the default. So we came in, or this administration came in, because I was not part of this administration when it was first elected. They came in at a period when debt repayment was not certain. That's number one. Number two, there was the question of inflation, which was almost hitting double digits. Number three, the forex reserve in our country was at its all-time low, about $4 billion, slightly over $4 billion, which is just 2.5 months of import cover. Yet the minimum that this country needs is, or requires, is 4 months of import. So if you look at it holistically, in terms of economic interventions that we have taken place, It is showing in the reserves. In fact, with the shocks that now we have of this war in the Middle East, I will tell you, Fred, if we didn't have the kind of reserves that we have, which is nearing now 7 months of input cuts, 14 billion from 4 billion, 4.5 billion a few 2 years, 3 years ago. Now we are at 14 billion. It may reduce a bit because of the pressure of these imports and the fuel products, petroleum products, but still, it just demonstrates that some of the actions that we took as a government have begun to bear fruits.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Just painting an overview, Waziri. But let's go step by step. And I can tell that debt management has been one of your biggest achievements so far.
That's correct.
Yeah, there are serious concerns about the debt to GDP ratio.
Yes.
There are serious concerns about some of the interventions that you've taken, including managing the liabilities up to 2028, 2029, you say, and the Euro bond buyback that people talk about, and they say that probably it will cost us more in the long run. Short term, probably it may work. Now, what other interventions have you taken as Treasury, even as you explain the reasoning behind the Euro bond buyback?
There are many. We have interventions on revenue. We have interventions on expenditure. So revenue mobilization and revenue reforms and expenditure rationalization and expenditure reforms. Under revenue, we are looking at many things. One is to reform the Kenya Revenue Authority, which we are doing, and to get as many Kenyans, because a large number of Kenyans are not paying taxes, but a few who are paying taxes are overtaxed. On the expenditure side, we are doing a couple of things. Look at the EGP that we are trying to implement is helping us to rationalize and remove fraudulent activities in procurement system. But again, we have also set up National Infrastructure Fund to remove some of the projects that we put in the budget, which are commercially viable, and therefore we need not to take space in our budget and lead us to more borrowing.
Allow me to ask you a very direct question, because I know you have these figures on your fingertips. If we talk about the debt stock right now,
yes,
how much is our debt stock?
Our debt stock is about 12 point, let me just call it 12.3 trillion.
12.3 trillion.
Yes.
When do we expect the next maturity that could probably impact to a large extent our revenues?
Maturity in terms
of paying debt liability.
You see, the debts in this country are the ones that put pressure on us are the following. Number one is the Eurobonds, the commercial debts. Those are the most expensive and they're the largest. And then we have bilateral, but mostly the Chinese debts. We have more or less dealt with the Chinese debt in a way of the debt management that we had. And that also required a lot of engagement, partnership, and discussion with the China. And thank God we managed to succeed on that line. On Eurobonds and syndicated debts, we don't have much pressure now, because if you look at the debt for next year, it's just about 108 million US dollars that we are paying, because we manage the liability for 2027. 2028 has also been managed. It's not much. The one that is still standing out is 2031, and which I think we have time to deal with. So right now, what I can say with certainty is that we don't have serious near-term debt default risk. The other pressure that we have is on domestic front, because out of the 12 plus trillion, over 7 trillion is domestic debt. We are trying to manage that by removing the short-term debts to long-term. We are issuing longer-term bonds. Central Bank is working around issuing a 30-year bond. That is a way to lengthen, and at a lower rate of about 12%. Remember, in 2024, we were borrowing money in terms of bonds at 18%.
Right.
Now it has come to 12%, and we can lengthen some short-term debts to long-term, like 30 years, 20 years, 25 years.
The issue of debt is the efficiency by government to spend or even absorb some of these monies, which have led to very huge commitment fees, which have cost taxpayers also. As far as intervening on that front, what have you done so far?
My ministry has worked together with the Office of the Deputy President, because again, the Office of the Deputy President took this as a very serious matter from the Cabinet. the Office of the Deputy President was assigned together with my ministry to coordinate efforts of one, relook at the profile of this portfolio of projects, the pipeline. Some of them we don't even have to take. Because as a country, we realized that we have been taking some debts out of supply, not demand. They were supply driven. Someone comes, some institution comes, some country comes, tells us we have money here, we want to support this activity. No one has even asked for that. So we are removing that, and we are now moving to where it is us to decide what activity or service or program we want to be financed.
Yes.
Then on top of that, right now we are removing those which are of commercial viability nature from our budgets. And there are many. We even have talked about Nyali Bridge. 37 billion is sitting there, clogging our budget. We have not taken that money, yet we don't have to borrow money to do that bridge.
Is it possible to have viable projects across the country? Or are we not opening up a door or window where people with influence can manipulate the National Infrastructure Fund to fund projects that are not viable simply for political expediency? Is that a risk? My
immediate answer to your question, Fred, is that this is a fund that is not going to be politicized. So there is not going to be any pressure of a group of MPs or villagers or leaders coming to sit and demanding the National Infrastructure Fund must do a project XYZ in this corner of the country. That is the first, that's the bottom line. Number two,
but how will you check that? That's the issue.
Yeah, that is why we are saying this is a fund. First, it has a council, which I chair. But there is a board that is going to be competitively recruited with technical and knowledgeable people, wealth of experience, who are now going to constitute the management. First, before a project gets into National Infrastructure Fund, it will go through thorough screening to find out project design, project planning, to determine whether it is commercially viable or not. And this is not going to be influenced by politics. The only thing that I've been saying, and maybe this is what is being construed, that the projects will be across the country. I have said repeatedly that let us dissuade ourselves from this notion that commercially viable projects can only be found in some specific areas of this country. That is the folly, and that is the weakness of sessional paper number 10, which decided to blanket and categorize this country as productive and less productive. Take the area which has been treated unfairly, the northern Kenya. That region has resources. That region has wind power. That region has sun that no any other region in this country enjoys. And therefore, there are projects that are commercially viable that use solar power, that use wind power. There's even a thinking that there may be oil and other minerals in those areas.
How do you safeguard retirement benefits for people? Many people feel that once pension funds are tapped, then probably once they get to retirement, the money won't be there.
Not really. You see, the pension funds are coming in as private players. They are not going to be forced to fund any project. And that is why we are talking about commercial viability, the bankability of these projects. You see, once a project has been planned, screened and planned and designed, like Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and you can see the revenue, potential revenue streams. That is what we call business. You project revenue and you look at expenditure. And by the way, investing in an asset like airport, yeah, is more assuring in terms of revenue than putting up apartments for people to live in, because you may lack tenants, the cost may escalate. So why are you comfortable with your pension money going into putting apartments which you don't know whether they will stay vacant forever, as opposed to putting it in an airport which you know for sure and there's certainty that there will be people coming into this country, especially if you expand the airport and make it more decent. It will be a regional hub. Many people who are moving to Rwanda, Ethiopia, will come through Jomo Kenyatta, because Nairobi is a location like no any other in this region. So what we are saying is that these our pension funds, instead of just investing in government paper, because we are also looking at a situation where if government starts reducing expenditure like we are going to reduce, then we will not be selling much of government paper. So where will they take the money? And pensioners, when they retire, they are not just waiting for the money that they contributed to be given to them. They want the money that they contributed to have generated more and more returns, so that when you retire, you get something that would take you throughout the rest of your life. So that is why it is better for these pension funds to look around and partner with the government in projects that are commercially viable and bankable, that would generate revenue for them to keep their pension funds afloat.
Right. And you mentioned something interesting about checking government expenditure, and you say you're going to reduce government expenditure, but that has always been a phrase that has been used constantly.
Yes.
Our public wage bill keeps ballooning. Our annual budget is going up, anticipated to 4.7%.
4.7 trillion.
4.7 trillion shillings. The latest supplementary budget increased our spending for this financial year by over 300 billion shillings. Then how do you talk about reducing government expenditure, Waziri?
Yeah, so first, I've looked at the expenditure pressures that we have, and we have limited space in terms of cutting on expenditure in terms of numbers. Because you look at our wage bill, which you have no discretion over. And the pressures that we are getting from the collective bargain agreements, the pressures that we are getting from our security sector, the pressures that you get all over in terms of increasing the salaries and all that. And of course the inflation index that you must keep pace with. So you find you cannot reduce much the wage bill unless now you bring some efficiency in government and see how these two levels, the duplications are removed, which there is some space there, but politically it must be managed. Now, the other area is the other recurrent expenditures. Also, the room is very minimal because, again, you may apply austerity measures until you start choking the economy. When we start cutting even austerity and the budget for travels, you know you are also affecting businesses in this country because austerity, our people go to Mombasa, go to Naivasha for meetings. Those hotels would not function. The people who are employed there would not have employment or jobs if people don't visit those areas. So you must balance the two. You must balance austerity measure, reduce wastage. At the same time, you must maintain economic activity at some level. Now, so what do we do? What we do is, number one, and I have mentioned, deal with the development part of the budget and only allow those projects in our budget which are not commercially viable, number one. Number two, expenditure rationalization. Where we waste money is not the actual amounts of expenditure items, of conferences, whatever. No, it is how we use that money. It is the procurement side, where instead of procuring a hall for 15,000 or 30,000, you procure it for 50,000 because another 20 is shared here in between. If we can have a system like we are putting in place, if EGP is rolled out fully, and I know we gave some exemption this year, which I am saying here that next financial year there will be no need for exemptions on EGP. Everybody should go e-procurement.
Waziri, you were never the biggest fan of supplementary budgets, and you said it's not the best way to keep financing or funding the annual budget. Yet, early this year, you presented a supplementary budget. What is the justification? And are you sticking to what you believe?
I am not a fan of supplementary budgets because I believe supplementary budgets largely is actually a result of poor planning at the budgeting stage, and I still hold that view. First, if you notice, you'll realize that previously we used to, like a few years back, we have started having 3 supplementary budgets in one financial year, and usually the supplementary budgets used to come in the month of November, kama ikichelewa December. Now we are talking about first supplementary budget and we are in April. So that is a step I actually, it's not even me, the government and the cabinet and the president is very clear that we should have a maximum of one supplementary budget per year, as it used to be. When I came to Parliament for the first time, we used to have only one supplementary budget. We should go back there, if not eliminate it. But this year's supplementary budget has been occasioned by a number of things. Number one, which was, in my view, poor planning on our part in terms of budget. There are two things. One is the donor-funded projects. We left out some donor-funded projects by not capturing them, yet we had to expend on those donor-funded projects, because the projects either were coming to a close or something like that. Number two is personnel emoluments. Personnel emoluments went up. Some, we left out some personnel emoluments which were very necessary, but personnel emoluments was contributed more by CBAs. There are some CBAs that had been suspended by the court. The courts concluded, and we became liable, so we had to pay. Some pressures also came, like the one for lecturers. We had to indulge. So that caused the personnel emoluments to go up. And then another mistake that we made was when we increased or varied the salary of police, Kenya police, we left out the Kenya Defence Forces, and we had to capture that.
How is that not anticipated while making the national
I
budget?
think someone imagined that we could only increase the salary of police officers and leave the KDF. And then when now the figures were looked at, it was reflecting very badly, because the Kenya Defence Force were now earning much less than Kenya Police. And I think it was necessary to regularize. The other area that we also provided for, KRA had requested that we give them more funding to be able to generate more revenue. And we increased that by 19, close to 20 billion, but Parliament reduced it to 17 billion. The other area was drought. This completely you cannot anticipate. And the drought, we spent over 13 billion.
Listening to you, you sound very optimistic, very confident about the situation of our economy. And you talked about the stability of the Kenya shilling. You talked about the drop in inflation, the projected growth rate of our GDP. But many people are saying, okay, fine, I'm not feeling it in my pocket. Where is this optimism coming from? Or is there something that you can see that other people who are not feeling it in their pocket cannot see?
You know, I don't want to appear, sometimes, you know, you may appear arrogant, because really there is a genuine case of Kenyans who cannot make ends meet. And if I just sit here and say, no, things are very good, things are rosy, it's like I'm not sensitive. It's like I may live in my own world. I may not be in that category of Kenyans, and I may be among the privileged Kenyans. But that does not mean that I'm not alive to the fact that Kenyans are facing a lot of challenges. And there are many, and they are numerous. But we need to understand what Kenyans are feeling in its correct context. Number one is unemployment rate in this country is very high. And this unemployment rate is putting a strain even on the employed. Because when you have so many people dependent on you, the amount of money that you could have helped you survive becomes less and less. Because there are so many mouths, so many people to attend to. You are siblings and you can't leave them. We are in a society also where we really regard those social relationships. So it is causing the strain on us. I could depend on my salary successfully, but because there are so many other people dependent on me, then it becomes less. So we must work, and that is what this government is doing, working towards creating more employment opportunities so that we have many people engaged in gainful employment. It is not that the salary that we earn becomes less or has lesser power to purchase, because the evidence is not there. It is because of the real wage shrinking because of dependency. One, because even if you look at the cost of commodities is known world over, that must always rise. One year on year must rise. That is why we say there is inflation. If there is negative inflation, my friend, it's again a problem. people who have learned economics, who are finance experts, will tell you, Fred, that an economy should not, the prices should not decelerate because it will not create employment. So some inflation is automatic, so long as that inflation is not way off the benchmark. And in Kenya, it is 5%, plus or minus 2.5. Meaning you can go up to 7.5 or go low up to 2.5. Below 2.5 is dangerous for Kenya's economy. Below 7.5, above 7.5 is also dangerous. So what we are there, the last statistics, 4.4. Not too bad. And you can even see it in prices of commodities. By the way, if you look at even price of unga today, how much is it? And you compare it even to 2023, 2024, the variation has not gone that high. Yes, but people feel that they have less money for the reason that I told you. And also, there's the feeling that we have introduced some levies and charges and taxes which are shrinking the paycheck, which we are acting on. And that is why you heard His Excellency the President and myself say that we will now look at how to increase the lower band from 24,000 to 30,000 and then reduce taxes up to 50,000.
Does that promise still stand?
Which we are working on for the finance bill, by the way. It still stands. We are working on the numbers. It is going to, it may cost us a bit because we are looking at the numbers and it's not looking very good. It's like we are losing revenue about 35 billion. But still, it's something that we think we should do because more Kenyans need more money in their pockets.
One of those things that has been said will definitely affect us is what is happening in the Middle East with the US-Israel war in Iran. And we do anticipate that this coming week, EPRA will review fuel prices. Fuel prices have much been talked about. You have been quoted in sections on the media saying that we do not anticipate a fuel hike this month. I don't know if that is correct. But how do you see this crisis impacting on us in the short term?
I'm not been saying, I didn't say that we are not expecting fuel hike. What I said is that there's no need to panic because the government is coming with interventions. One of the interventions is what you saw happen. We are not allowing any expensive fuel to be brought to this country. Because this G2G arrangement, it is now that we are realizing its benefit more than anybody else. You can see, we have been discussing with our partner states. Uganda was concerned that Kenyans' fuel prices may be lower than them by far, and that would lead to people crossing over and interfering with the trade in that space, and even Tanzania. So this G2G has benefits because the freight charges are much lower. 88, 84, 88, I think it's 88, $88 per ton. Compared to the market rates at this time, Sahia, 270. We are saving a lot, and that is going into subsidizing the fuel. We have also agreed as a government to look at what we can do with VAT, right? To cap the VAT as where it is, so that we don't factor in additional VAT onto the price. The third thing is we have stabilization fund, which is not having so much, but we are going to use part of it to cushion Kenyans. With all that, the rise may be there, but it's not going to be so significant as if we did not intervene. That is what I said, and that's what I stand with.
So we do anticipate a price hike in this this month's review?
I am being very careful, Fred, to say that because I would be taking a responsibility which is not mine. That responsibility is for EPRA to announce fuel prices. It is not within my docket. If I do that, I would be misusing my powers.
So, yes, Waziri, to our final question, and this has to do with what I started with, the praise that you've received from your boss and your political future as well. You are a politician, you are still a politician, and probably you had different ambitions before you joined the cabinet. Has that changed? Will you still pursue elective politics next year, or do you now see yourself, because other people have suggested, you could be set for bigger things?
There is no politician in this world worth being called a politician who is not ambitious. All of us have ambitions, some wild ambitions, some are reasonable, some are unreasonable. So I am equally ambitious. As to where that ambition will land me, it's God who knows, plus my efforts, right? What is certain, almost certain, is that I may not run for seats that I wanted to run for in 2027. Remember, in 2022, I had planned to go for gubernatorial seat in Omabim, and that didn't work because of the arrangement I had with the late Raila Odinga, who's my party leader and my friend. And later on, I came back as nominated MP. Of course, I was to be a minister in his government. That didn't happen. I came in as a nominated MP in 2023. Humbling enough, and I was privileged to chair Public Accounts Committee, which is still a very powerful committee. And I was looking up to getting back to Suba South and become MP again, because, well, according to the discussions we had, it was it really wise for our party to start fighting, myself and the governor to start fighting for that position. So where I am today is, chances are I may not run again for parliamentary seat in 2027. It can happen any other time. You can't rule out anything, and run for gubernatorial seats.
Asante sana Waziri. That has been CS Treasury and National Treasury and Economic Planning, the Honorable John Mbadi, who agreed to give us this interview today. Thank you so much, Waziri.
Thank you, Fred. Today. Thank you very much, and your team. Yes.
Well, continue watching our programming. My name is Freddie Ndimuli.